I know that window.
It's a nice amount of light in the mornings.
Yeah, I know. I'm 29. I work in logistics coordination, which is exactly as interesting as it sounds. And I have been on Hinge since around late February, mostly out of the kind of low effort optimism where you set something up because not doing it feels like a decision too. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd made pasta and was letting the pan soak, and I had about 20 minutes before I actually needed to deal with it. I was leaning against the counter with my phone doing what I'd started to think of as the evening maintenance, swiping without really looking the way you might scroll through the same news app 3 times without reading anything. His first photo was him standing in front of a corrugated metal wall, the kind of image that shows up constantly on Hinge right now, designed to look like it wasn't designed. I liked the photo before I'd even gotten to his name. Then I read the bio. The second prompt answer was a sentence that I read once, fast, and then read again more slowly, and then set down somewhere in the back of my chest without being sure where. It wasn't a phrase that would mean anything to a stranger. It wasn't poetic, it wasn't clever enough to be a quote. It was specific in a way that specificity only becomes when it comes from somewhere real. The kind of thing you say once, to one person at a particular hour, and then never repeat because it doesn't belong to the general language. I had said that sentence. I remembered saying it, and to whom, and roughly when, which was almost 2 years ago, in an apartment I don't go back to someone I've spent the last 14 months not describing as resolved. It's probably nothing.
You always do that thing where you talk yourself out of what you already know.
I'm not talking myself out of anything.
Okay.
It was one sentence. People say the same things. I scrolled up and looked at his face again. The name on the profile was a name I didn't recognize. I didn't recognize the photos either, not immediately, not from anything I'd been sent, not from any tagged post I'd seen. He was 31, the profile said. His photos were the kind that do exactly what they're supposed to do. Overexposed natural light, a kind of studied casualness, nothing that looked obviously wrong. I told myself it was probably a coincidence of phrasing. I told myself I was doing the thing where you look for patterns in noise because your brain is tired and your kitchen smells like garlic. I responded to the pan, let it soak another 10 minutes, and went to bed.
You mentioned the neighborhood kind of offhand. I wasn't sure if that was somewhere you actually go or just somewhere you pass through.
A bit of both, I guess.
That's usually how it is with places that actually matter.
Sure.
Sorry, that probably sounded like a lot.
No, it's fine. He'd messaged by the morning. Something neutral. A follow-up on one of my prompt answers. The kind of opener that signals attentiveness without risking much. I responded from the train. The kind of half-present multitasking that keeps the conversation technically alive without requiring full investment. His response came a few hours later, measured slightly slower than the usual app rhythm. By the time I got home, the thread was 3 exchanges long and nothing in it was wrong. He was asking about a neighborhood I'd mentioned, and the questions were good questions, the kind you ask when you're actually listening. Then I got to the third photo. I know that window.
It's a nice amount of light in the mornings.
Yeah, I know. The third photo was the one that made me put the phone face down on the counter. It was an overexposed shot, phone camera, the kind of photo no one posts, because they're proud of the composition. Someone had taken it almost accidentally. A hand holding a coffee cup near a window, and in the upper left of the frame there was a water stain on the sill, in a very particular shape, elongated with a smaller satellite mark above it. The kind of stain that forms over months from a plant that's been slightly overwatered. I had seen that water stain. I had been in the apartment where that window lived, in that specific light, enough times that I had stopped seeing it as a detail and just accepted it as part of the background. I stood in the kitchen for a while after that. I washed the mug that was in the sink and put it away, and then I went and sat on the couch, and I did not turn on the television. Do you do that thing where you wait before responding on purpose?
Not really on purpose.
Right.
I just don't want to say something before I've thought about it.
Someone I knew used to say basically that exact thing.
Seems like a reasonable policy.
It was. I went back to the conversation and reread what I'd written. Not his messages, mine. I was parsing whether anything in my 3 responses had given something away, and then I had to sit with the part where I couldn't figure out what there was to give away, or who it would be given away to. I hadn't used my last name. My photos on the profile were recent, nothing from 2 years ago. I'd changed my first name to a nickname I'd used for about a year and then let drop. I scrolled through his photos again slowly. The way you look at something when you already suspect the looking is going to confirm something you don't want confirmed. The face in the photos was a face I didn't recognize. His name meant nothing to me, but the hand near the window, the sentence in the prompt. And now that I was reading his messages differently, the conversational pacing, the way he waited just long enough before responding to feel considered, the way his questions landed at angles that assumed I'd want to be understood rather than entertained. That pacing was familiar. Not like hearing a song you know in a store, more like the feeling of walking into a room and knowing someone has just left it because the air hasn't settled yet. On Friday, he sent a follow-up. A single line, the kind that gets sent when a conversation has gone quiet. Not aggressive, not weird, technically just a nudge. But the line had a specific kind of inside corner to it. The way a sentence that sounds like nothing to someone without context can sound like something quite specific to someone who has the context. I read it standing in the kitchen again, same range hood light. I thought about the shape of what a direct question would look like. A message that would either confirm something or return something perfectly ordinary that would make me feel like I'd lost my mind. I thought about which answer would be worse. I screenshot the profile. The file went into my camera roll between a photo of a receipt I was going to expense and a picture of my friend Danny's dog that she'd sent me earlier in the week. By Sunday, the conversation had expired. Hinge does that. Conversations time out when they go quiet long enough, and the thread just disappears from your active matches. I'd opened the app for something else entirely, a message from a different match I'd been meaning to respond to, and I noticed his name was gone from the list. I navigated to the expired section and looked at the thread one more time. He hadn't messaged again after Friday. I hadn't responded. The screenshot is still in my camera roll. I went back to swiping Tuesday after the dishes, same as usual. The pan needed soaking. The kitchen was quiet.